Hello everyone and welcome to another 365 Days of Weather Scrapbooking project. This is the project that I'm collaborating with Julie Carriere, and she has designed this month's layout, and all of these little semicircles represent a weather temperature. If you haven't checked out any of these videos and this is all new to you, I'll put a link to the playlist below so that you'll be able to find it, and it'll also be at the end of the video. Now, this layout that Julie has designed, it's her turn this month. I'll be doing the June one, so we're doing a turnabout. The semicircles run all the way across a double page spread. So I started at day 1, and this is 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I've kept running 6 through all the way to the 31st of May. Now, I haven't stuck this one on. I've gone ahead and prepped all that because I figured that you didn't want to watch me adhere all of these. But what I basically did was start with my bottom layer. So I virtually worked backwards. I started on the right page with the 31st and worked backwards. And I used my T-ruler to help me line these up going across the page so that they would be fairly straight. So this is my day 1 piece. I'm going to attach that to the page, and then what I decided to do was finish this up with a little bit of burlap ribbon that I have in my stash. So I'm just going to get my Tombow glue and run a bead of this all the way across. This is a brand new one. I probably shouldn't have squeezed quite that much, but I can get a piece of cardstock and just spread that out a little bit. And then I'm going to run this across, and I'm purposely leaving these bits over at the edge because I'm going to wrap them around behind the layout. I find with ribbon sometimes I like doing this rather than trying to cut off the end. To me, it just gives a little bit of a neater finish. I'm just going to spread that glue out a little bit more and wrap these around. And I just need to sit something heavy on top for the glue to adhere. So while that's adhering, I'm going to talk to you about this design. When we work on the layouts and work out what we're going to do, we actually create them in Design Space and then use that as a sketch. And I've decided that I'm doing pretty much 90% of my cutting from the Design Space file. So from the sketch that Julie created, I decided to get some leaves from the Flower Market collection and create this strip. So stay tuned for the end of the video because I'm going to show you how I achieved this texture on that border. I've also gone ahead and matted my photos onto the piece here, and then I went through my stash of word art stickers and I found a sticker that was together and it had forever at the bottom, so I just trimmed that off. And I've attached some sunflowers here because this photo was taken as a portrait photo, so I couldn't make it into a 6x4. The lighting wasn't all that great and it just blew out the faces quite a bit. But this was at a Close to My Heart event in Melbourne recently. Monica Wahongi and Tiffany came out from Close to My Heart corporate office, and Monica's the president of Close to My Heart, and we had a big event in Melbourne. They did a whole road show throughout Australia and over to New Zealand as well, and we were all lucky enough to get some photos with her, and it was such an exciting event to be at, so I'm so glad that I've got these photos. But as I've said, if you're looking at a sketch and your orientation of your photo doesn't quite match, you can trim it down, and if it's going on a mat like this, create something to go over to the side of it as a little embellishment. These sunflowers are actually from a retired set called Joyful Sunflower, but I've just checked online and the stamp set and the thin cuts are still available. So I was a bit excited to find that because this is one of my favourite floral stamps. So now that this is dry, I'm just going to trim off the edge of that semicircle and flip that over, and you can see how nice and neat that looks on the edge there. So my photo is going to go here, and then there is a journal spot that will go here, and I'm going to do all my journaling on the computer I've got the shipping label adhesive sheets, so I'm going to print everything out. But I decided what I wanted to do was stamp another sunflower on here. So I've used pewter ink and I've done second generation stamping. So this is how the layout looks on the sketch, but I wanted to carry this element over. So that's going to be the spot for the May title to go. And I've already popped this up onto some foam dots. And if you're curious how to do this, I've got a Cricut tutorial at the end of April's video that shows how to do this outline feature. And then I'm going to run my leaves going down the page this way. So I'm going to adhere all of this to the page, and I won't make you watch all of this, but I just find using a T-ruler is so handy to get everything so nice and straight. And it will also help me work out where to position the journal box on this side. So I'm going about 3/4 of an inch down, and then I can adhere this one to this side at about 3/4 of an inch down. Now, while you're looking at this, you can see I've got a bit of a blob here from when I was creating the leaves, but I am going to show you how I fixed all that. I'm not going to adhere my journaling strip just yet, but I've just placed it there so I can use that as a little bit of a guide for where I want to place this photo mat. And then I'm going to apply this leaf section. I'm just going to move this out of the way at the moment because I'm going to use some liquid glue on this. And I do like working on my all-purpose mat when I'm using something like liquid glue. I'm going to use the Tombow white glue because it does stay tacky for some time, and I can just put little dots of it all the way down. The good thing about using this white Tombow glue is that it does remain tacky for quite some time. It doesn't dry out too quickly, so you've got time to put all the glue on there on a large piece and then be able to lay it over top without fear of it drying out too much. The other thing I decided to do just to lighten this a little bit, because there is a lot of green on here. We had quite cold weather in May. There weren't too many warm days. So winter, I think, has come extremely early for us here where I live. So what I decided to do was go around these semicircles with a white gel pen. I'm using the Jelly Roll 08 pen. As you can see, I'm not making them all uniform. I'm just doing a few little curved lines and tiny lines just to add a little bit more visual interest to these elements. Here's the left side of the layout. You can see I haven't actually stuck this down because it's going to be easier for me to adhere that label with all the journaling on it while this isn't attached to the page. And just in case I get it all crooked, then I will be able to just cut another one and stamp that again. Here's the right page. I have to apologise for the glare. I did put this into a page protector already because I have done a flip flap here, and I just wanted to show you that I have attached this directly to my page and I've cut a slit in this. I'll put a link to a video that I've done where I actually show how I did this on camera. I got some sunflowers for Mother's Day and I absolutely love them, so I really wanted to put those in a little flip flap, and then this gives me another journaling spot to journal around about the rest of my photos. And now I'm going to tell you about a little oops that I made. This is actually a June photo, so it doesn't belong in May. I don't know what I was thinking when I printed it. And really, I do know that his birthday's on the 1st of June. So I'm going to have to find another photo and put that on there in its place. But I just thought I'd show you, yes, we all make mistakes, and sometimes they're so silly. I can't believe I put a 1st of June birthday onto a May layout. We also have these little wild orchids that pop up in our garden. They're only about this tall. The flower is only about that tall. So basically, the whole plant's about this tall, but they look really good down the side of the house, so I wanted to include those. And of course I've included the sunflowers here. I'm going to show you how I coloured those at the end of the video too. So I'm going to show you the colouring and how I achieved this look on the leaves. And for May, I had a few more photos, and I've brought in the Pocket Plus memory protectors, the 6x4. This is design 1, so they all run this way. And even though it was autumn for us in May, I actually didn't go out looking for autumn leaves. This was basically me walking back from a much needed haircut. So a lot of the leaves were already on the ground. I have camellias that always come out around Mother's Day. So I wanted to capture the photos of those. My daughter actually took these and I love the little bouquet effect in the background that she got. And what I've done with these elements on the side here, I've matched the colors from the weather pieces that I've used here, and I've done tone on tone stamping, and I've used this yesterday and today card making, which is another retired set, but it is still available, and it's available with the thin cuts as well. I was looking through my stash for flowers that looked a little bit like a camellia, and this was the closest thing that I had, so I've just random stamped those. This one here is second generation stamping, and this is toffee on toffee. And then I've got a couple of little interactive elements on this other side. I went and helped a girlfriend declutter her front room, and she had a lot of books that needed a new home, and I'm trying not to bring any more things into the house. So we went down to one of her local stations that had this really cute book library station where people can just drop off books. So it's a lovely community sharing project, and these are popping up more and more in different areas. And I've stamped down the side of this piece with this stamp set here. I've done one block of stamping, and then I've stamped it again at the top so it runs all the way down the length of this strip. So this is the in a book stamp and thin cuts, and that's tone on tone. And I've done a little interactive element here without using flip flaps. My daughter and I love watching Eurovision every year. We watch the 2 semi-finals and the grand final, and we can't wait for May to come around every year so we can sit down and love it. We love the whole production, the songs and the performances. So what I did for this one, because I had several photos, I actually created a pull-out element. Now these aren't my photos, I have sourced these, but what I did was cut a 4-inch by 12-inch piece of white daisy, scored it at 4 inches, and then adhered my photos onto it and put this onto this 6x4 piece here. So this is where it ends, and then I've just butted up another piece of cardstock. I've done some stamping on that one as well. This is a really old set. It's universal backgrounds and it's got some music on it, so I thought that would be very cool to put next to these. So this just slides straight back in, and I'm going to do some label strips for this. So I just wanted to record our favorite acts from the year. Måneskin was last year's winner and Ukraine won this year. And then I've done a flip flap in this pocket to put some more journaling about my daughter and I watching Eurovision and how we enjoy the whole event so much. So I'm going to do that on the shipping labels as well, and then adhere those to that. So I will have some still shots up at the end of this video. Unfortunately, it's still going to have that photo there because I'm not picking up new photos until later this week. But for now, what I want to do is show you the techniques with getting some colour on these leaves and colour on the sunflowers. The first thing I'm going to show you is the colouring of the sunflowers. What I've actually done is use some shimmer brushes. So I think this one's lemon. Mine aren't labelled, which is something that I should have done, but they come labelled now. So I'm just waiting until I replace these or purchase new ones, and then they'll all be labelled. I've bought myself a labelling by the P-Touch Cube, and I just need to get it working and start labelling everything, but I keep playing in the craft room instead because that's sort of more fun. So all I've done is loosely gone around these with the colour. I'm not really doing any shading on the sunflower itself. They're bright, they're happy, they're yellow, and I found the shimmer brush yellow is such a good colour for sunflowers. So that's all I'm doing for that one. This one is toffee. So that is perfect for the inside of the flower. And because there's so much texture with this stamp set, I think that is quite enough to just put on there without adding in extra layers. Now for this one, I think it's clover because that matches up pretty well with the stamp set. I've already gone ahead and I've coloured the leaves, but you can go in once it's dry, and I'm just going over where the stamp has those little lines, and adding some more colour in. So you can build up your shimmer brush like you do with alcohol ink markers and create a little bit more depth. But you do have to wait until it is totally dry, which doesn't take too long with a shimmer brush. But I wanted to give you that little tip on how to create a little bit more visual interest when you're colouring with a shimmer brush. And also colouring in with shimmer brushes, as you saw, is quite quick and it's quite easy to do. So now I'm going to get a bit messy, and this is why I've left this to the end of the video. So I'm going to use New England Ivy, and this is where the all-purpose mat comes in handy, because you can just smoosh the colours down when you come in with avocado. And I'm putting all of these down in one go. And then I'm bringing in Sundance because I wanted a little bit of yellow. I've got a little spray bottle here. I'm not spraying too much. Don't want this too wet. And then I've got a piece of cut up sponge. I've cut it into a bit of a square. I'm just using each of the corners and I'm going down my leaves and just sponging colour onto them. You can see because the ink has beaded that you get that sort of a look when you're sponging, and I'm not pressing too hard. And I don't want too much water because this is a white daisy cardstock and it gets very wet. So once you've done this, you do have to set it aside to dry. Then I'm going to go in with the avocado. And you can see that's building up the layers of colour. So I'm just repeating the process all the way down the leaves. I'm actually liking this one better than the one that I put onto the layout so far. Sometimes it's good to leave a little bit of white space on them. And then I'm rotating my sponge again to pick up some New England Ivy. It looks like you've spent a lot of time doing this, or that you've cut this out of a pattern cardstock, but the end result of this is really quite lovely. So there's the piece. You can see it's flopping around quite a bit in my hand, so you do have to handle this with care. So you need to set that aside to dry for some time before you apply glue to adhere it to your layout. Now, while I've got this ink smooshed down on my all-purpose mat, I'm not going to waste it. You can see here that I've got some splatters on these elements, and I have made a bit of a mess here, and this happened when I was actually doing the sponging. So when I did this layout, I decided I wanted to put a few little flecks on there. Now you can see I've already adhered everything here, and this is exactly what happened with my right page. How to get around that? I'm actually going to wipe this little bit off. I've got another all-purpose mat that I've trimmed down. One side of it got a little bit too messy and had a couple of holes in it, so it wasn't protecting my surface quite as well. And I'm going to bring in some copy paper just so I can mask off a little bit, and my water brush. And now I'm going to pick up some of this and start splattering it around. And I just need to get rid of the green. And then I'm going to pick up some New England Ivy and do exactly the same thing. So now you can see that these little sprinkles and flecks all tie in with the colour tones. The bit of Sundance ties in with the sunflowers on the page. And I'm really happy with how everything is looking with this, even though, once again, I've got a lot of avocado and a lot of dark side, and I went into New England Ivy. As much as I don't like winter, I'm sort of hoping for some really colder days, so where I can put some glacier on the page. That would be really cool with this year's project. But Melbourne generally doesn't get that cold, so we'll wait and see what happens with June. If you haven't watched Julie's weather layout yet, I'll have a link to that as well once the still shots come up and in the description below. So make sure you check out what her May month looks like for 365 days of weather scrapbooking. As I said, I'll put some still shots up at the end of this video and some links to the playlist and also to the video where I show you how to cut through a page protector. Thank you so much for joining in. Happy crafting and bye for now.